Thanks for inviting us in. It's now 6 o'clock and we begin with that explosive testimony dominating the Delphi murders trial today.
That testimony came from a psychologist claiming that the prime suspect, Richard Allen, provided detailed confessions to the murders of the two teens, Abby Williams and Libby German. And now Allen's attorneys are trying to discredit that testimony.
Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel and Emily Longnecker have been in court today. So what can you tell us about the testimony?
Well, Scott and Ann, on the very first day of this trial, we heard the prosecutor tell the jury that they were going to hear about some confessions from Richard Allen that only the killer would know. Well, today's the day that the state presented that testimony to the jury. It came from Dr. Monica Walla, the prison psychologist who treated Richard Allen while he was at the Westville Correctional Facility. Walla told jurors she met almost daily with Allen, and she heard him confess to the murders several times. One of those confessions, she said, was very detailed, and she documented what Allen said in her clinical notes that she read this morning for the jury. She said, according to Allen, he went to his parents' house in the morning, bought a six-pack of beer on the way home and drank 3 of those beers. Then he bundled up and went to the trails. That's where he saw Abby and Libby and followed them across the bridge. She said that Allen then told her he did something with his gun, which he thought might explain how a cartridge from the gun ended up at the crime scene. She said Allen told her he instructed Abby and Libby to go down the hill. The psychologist told the jury Allen then said he planned on sexually assaulting Abby and Libby, but he saw a van and got scared, so he told the girls to cross the creek. Wallace said the defendant told her that's where he cut their necks and made sure they were dead. Then covered their bodies with branches and returned to his car, staying off the trail so he would not be seen. It was devastating testimony against Richard Allen that the jury heard this morning. This afternoon, his defense team got Dr. Walla to acknowledge she diagnosed him with serious mental illness and that he had an abrupt occurrence of psychotic behavior around the time of his confessions. The jury also got to hear about Dr. Walla's longtime fascination with the Delphi murders case, and that she talked with Richard Allen about what people had been saying about him and the murder case, things she heard on podcasts and videos, and she did that while she was treating him as a patient. Now, the defense team's trying to undermine the credibility of this witness and the very memorable testimony she gave today, and then we got more memorable testimony. Emily, the last witness of the day. Wow.
Brad Weber, wow. And memorable is really understating it. It was the kind of testimony that after it was over, everyone, including the jury, we were all just kind of sitting there in silence, looking around at each other. The last witness of the day, Brad Weber, he lives across the creek from where the girls' bodies were found. He lives at the end of a private drive near the bridge. He testified for the state today that on the day the girls went missing, he clocked out at work at 2:30 p.m. at the Subaru plant and drove home, a drive he says it takes about 25 minutes. He said he was driving a van. Here's where it got interesting. We're going to bring up a graphic. On cross-examination, Andrew Baldwin said to Weber, "You did not drive straight home from work on February 13th. Weber said, "That's not correct." Baldwin said, "You told law enforcement on February 17th or 18th you went and worked on your ATM machines." Weber then said, "I said I dropped off a trailer." He was getting more heated. Then Baldwin said, "That was earlier in the day. You went and worked on your ATM machines." And at that point, Weber started yelling, "That is not correct, no." And then we saw Andrew Baldwin hand Mr. Weber a piece of paper. Later, we learned that that is a subpoena. We don't know a subpoena what for, perhaps, though, probably to we would imagine, to come back and testify. But Mr. Weber, very significant one for the state because he lives so near where the girls' bodies were found, but also significant for the defense because the defense has brought up before when investigators tested Mr. Weber's gun to see if it matched that cartridge, those tests were inconclusive. So I think we're going to hear more from Brad Weber in this case.
Scott and Ann, 39 witnesses called so far for the state. We hear there might only be a couple more and that the state could be resting their case as soon as tomorrow. Of course, then it will be the defense's turn. We're live in Delphi. Scott and Ann, back to you.
All right, Bob and Emily reporting for us from Delphi tonight. Thank you. And they've got much more as we continue our coverage with our Delphi debrief. They'll be joined by our legal expert, Katie Jackson Lindsay, discussing testimony about Richard Allen's alleged confessions and everything that happened in court today. You can watch that stream every weeknight at 10 o'clock to catch up on the developments. WTHR Plus is a free download. You can find it on Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and also on Roku. Angela?
And Maria, weather impact day tomorrow because of rain and storms moving in. The wind between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. for most of us. Rain and storms, a few gusty storms possible as we are under the low threat of severe weather. Watch for slick spots. We've got a lot of leaves down. Add to that, it is going to be wet off and on during the day tomorrow. We're dry at 11 o'clock. 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, we do have rain arriving into the western part of the state. And by lunchtime, scattered showers and a couple of thunderstorms possible. This does start to move out for trick-or-treating tomorrow evening.
Thanks so much, Angela. Well, tonight we're hearing from a former IPS teacher who called one of its middle schools a, quote, unsafe learning environment.
She is one of at least 7 staff members to resign from Broad Ripple Middle School in the past few months. Our Samantha Johnson tonight shares her firsthand account.
There were several reasons why this teacher said enough was enough. Doors that didn't lock, phones and panic buttons that didn't work, fighting in the hallways, cursing at teachers. All of this, she said, made it nearly impossible to teach. We've altered her voice to protect her identity after what she says was a disappointing 3 months.
The school year obviously did not go as expected.
When Broad Ripple Middle School opened earlier this year as part of the district's Rebuilding Stronger plan, this teacher says the old building simply wasn't ready. Combine that with weeks of behavioral and safety concerns from students, she says she didn't feel safe at work.
I don't enjoy this. I no longer want to be here. It's not worth it.
And she's not alone, with at least 8 staffers resigning since the start of the school year. The district responding in a statement today, saying in part, quote, Broad Ripple Middle School experienced some challenges at the start of the year as we launched this new school. However, the district and school team quickly collaborated to address these issues and have seen continued progress. You can read the full statement right now at WTHR.com. In Broad Ripple, Samantha Johnson, 13 News.
A man was just arrested this week accused of groping 2 women on the Monon Trail. Police tonight are telling us those assaults took place Monday along the portion of the trail near 67th and College. Now, according to these court documents, police collected the man's DNA as they investigate several previous assaults on women along the Monon this year. Now, in response to those assaults, IMPD has now increased bike patrols along the Monon, and they're urging people to stay aware of their surroundings while walking or biking.
There's a new bridge coming to the west side of downtown, and the city just broke ground on the project today. This is now going to extend over the White River between Washington Street and also Kentucky Avenue. Our Marion County reporter Lauren Kostick shares what this new span means for that neighborhood.
Along the White River, crews are working on the Henry Street Bridge. Noise that neighbors like Jay Napoleon actually enjoy.
You know it's coming, but when you actually see it, it does give you goosebumps.
That's because for years the community has been fighting to be connected to downtown, the White River serving as the divider. Councilor Kristen Jones joined the fight after the GM stamping plant closed up shop more than a decade ago.
We can see Lucas Oil, but we feel so far away, but it's really not. But this river has been a barrier.
The Henry Street Bridge will sit between Washington Street and Kentucky Avenue, with 60% of it dedicated to pedestrian traffic. It will also connect to Elanco's new headquarters.
And still, the sky's the limit to what this neighborhood and what this area of downtown Indianapolis can mean for everybody.
Creating a new chapter for the Valley neighborhood.
And the total cost for this bridge is more than $40 million. It's expected to be completed in 2026. In Indianapolis, Lauren Kostick, 13 News.
Taylor Swift isn't the only musician taking over downtown Indianapolis.
Oh, no. Still ahead, we're going to introduce you to some of the street musicians that are performing in the Swift City Sessions this weekend.
Dry and warm this evening in the 70s. Pacers at home taking on the Celtics. Dom is live at Gainbridge.
Saturday, a big-time early season matchup here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals from just 5 months ago. Can the Pacers get it done and snap a 3-game skid? It's coming up on 13 Sports.